Let's start. So, Rix, thanks for joining me today in this live webinar. I think it's the first time for Viewlift going live on YouTube, so I'm very happy for for this occasion. So, guys, today is the 20th of April, 2020, and it's 9:01 in London, 1:01 Pacific time, 4:01 East, and we are live on the Viewlift YouTube channel, as well as simultaneously on my own channel, Fabio Gallo. So the aim of this webinar, guys, is to give an overview of the current status of the OTT streaming industry, and most importantly, to look at the future. So what's going on in this uncertain time like we are living today in this, unfortunately, time with this dramatic pandemic. Rick Allen will give us his point of view on how media companies are really working harder to deliver entertainment into millions of households worldwide. So for those who doesn't know Rick, well, first of all, he is the super boss of Viewlift. He is the CEO of the company. He has run media and technology company, I would say, for more than 25 years, including National Geographic, Sporting News, also a senior executive at Discovery, and served into the Clinton White House. When he explained me about the history, I was like very impressed. So Rick has been an advisor also to a number of professional sport teams, produced films and TV shows shown around the world, and he's also written 2 books. So I'm very glad to be interviewing him today. But before starting, guys, some housekeeping information. We are live. So on the right-hand side of your YouTube, you can get access to the live chat. So you can leave any questions, comments to Rick or to me. I will collect all of them, and if they have, and at the end of the interview, we'll do a small Q&A session. Rick, again, really thanks for being here, for taking the time to stay with us. Rick, I'll start from the current situation in which many media and entertainment companies are living. Actually, what I see is quite, a complicated matter, because if from one side, sport media companies are really blocked, are suffering a big hard stop because basically they cannot go live. They have live streaming going on. On the other side, on the flip side of it, more traditional media companies, and we are living, if you live that every single day, are literally booming the audience, mainly due to the fact that the worldwide population is at home, is locked down. So, first of all, Rick, what's your view? What's the situation right now?
Well, it's a little bit like the impact of the disease that started these circumstances in and of itself, right? Individual results are varying pretty tremendously. And you're right that it's bifurcating in the industry sectors. So on the media side, because they're not turning on live events, it's easy for them to provide programming they already had in their production and post-production streams. And so we're seeing really great success from media entities whose subscription services or ad-supported services are up 10, 20, 30%. We had a brand new streaming service launch a couple of months ago. They're already up over 200,000 subscribers, and they haven't really even started their major marketing. And that's for a service that's priced at about the same price as Netflix. So terrific success stories on the media side. Sports side, as you said, when you don't have live sports, very, very difficult to command the kinds of audiences as sports fans that you get when sports are live. But under both circumstances, I think content companies understand that digital is the way to go. And so they're exploring what new digital tools are available to really engage their fans and viewers more intensively.
And we will talk a little bit more in depth on that specific area, because there is a nice, very cool actually initiatives that you actually start to lead on, but we'll jump that in a moment. Now let's move a little ahead and try to see what could happen in the next months, right? We clearly don't have the crystal ball to see the future, luckily, but we can try. So how do you see the media landscape? I'm asking you this question because even if right now media companies are experiencing a huge increase in the watch time, every data can confirm that. In the long run, and without new series, episodes, movies, live events, and so on, we probably definitely arrive in a point in which new and fresh content will be scarce. So, how do you believe this issue will affect media companies, and what's your view for the coming months?
Well, you're exactly right. I mean, you can't just flip a switch and suddenly have fully produced new content ready. The production process is a really long one, whether it's for films, for reality shows, for TV series of any type. And it's going to take a while for that process to gear back up again. There are some shows in the pipeline, but they've got to reassemble their crews. Even if they're in post, it's going to take a while to generate. For sports, we expect that sports will resume, live sports, but it's unclear the circumstances. Are they going to come back in stadia in front of live audiences, in front of 100,000 fans, or will they start out playing in empty arenas and stadia? All of those things will be determined over the next number of months as we start to come back from this crisis. But what I think it really means for everyone in every sector in the media landscape, and sports is part of media for that purpose, they have to think about how are you going to come back stronger than ever as a provider to your audience? How can you start to work through digital tools now that will allow you to come back no matter what the circumstances are? Use your archived content in new and intriguing ways. If you're in sports, come back with something new for the fan, perhaps something that actually captures closer to what the live experience is to be there for the game itself. And now is a great time to be working on the technical challenges that presents, really conceive of a strong product, and think about how you'll market it to your audience and communicate with them when you're coming back live stronger than ever.
Yeah, and we were talking, I think, by phone together. We were actually mentioning how innovation can be the driver and for the future and for the future months, not for in 5 years. So that's absolutely true. So Rick, as the CEO, one of the leader video OTT streaming provider, you're supporting a bunch of clients, not just in the US. Of course, we are in Europe, but we are in Asia, we are in India, we are pretty much everywhere. Are there any geographic areas that you are foreseeing that are booming really more than others in this moment, particularly this moment? And if you focus on the demand of content and the rise of the new OTT platforms, can you tell us, if you are foreseeing a shift, from instance, from Europe to Asia, or from US to Asia, or wherever you see that?
Well, I think you're right. We are, as you said, a global company. We're on every continent now except Antarctica, and there aren't a whole lot of subscribers among the penguins. So you're seeing content companies get into OTT from all parts of the world. And you're also seeing new sectors. We've talked about media and we've talked about sports, but there are many other sectors using over-the-top technology to reach their audience. They're consumer brands, they're education and lifelong learning companies, they're nonprofits, they're all of those sectors. And I think what we'll see is when we open back up again as full economies worldwide, you've talked about the shortage of freshly produced content. that means sources are going to widen. People are going to go further afield to find content that's really attractive to them. That opens up great opportunities for new entrants into the over-the-top field. They'll come from every region, every country. We are seeing outside of the US, where the over-the-top market is fairly mature, in many of the other continents, you've got new entrants who now are using these tools sometimes for the first time. So it's by no means too late. In fact, it's the perfect time for content owners to get into this field. And from a consumer's perspective, this is a great opportunity to look around at different providers of the sorts of programming that you really love. And you'll see those new sources. So in areas like sports betting, when major live sports, the big pro sports, are on hiatus, the sports betting folks are seeing leagues that I don't think folks in London, where you are, or here on the East Coast of the US had ever even heard of. But they're trying them now because they're live and they can bet on it. Also, simulated games. Here in DC, where I am, our NBA team, the Wizards, have been playing simulated games on NBA 2K. So, you're seeing different kinds of programming. And at any time when you have these new sources, tastes expand for the audience. They start to find that a good story is a good story. A good show is a good show. A really intense competitive sports event is great action to watch. And so they'll take a look at different sources of content. And we're seeing new power players emerge from those markets that you mentioned. We've got two tremendous movie and television studios in India, Hoichoi and Arha Media. They've done wonderful programming on a global basis. And it really proves that you can enter the market from any of these home economies with stories that resonate with viewers from around the world.
Yeah. So, Rick, you know me. So I'm one of the believers that, you as a company, you should focus creating direct-to-consumer brand today more than ever. And today is the right moment to move. So how is it important, the brand positioning in an always more crowded market? So I'm actually seeing almost every day the rise of new over-the-top solution in the market. So what's your take on that?
Well, I think you're right. Really, companies that consider themselves to be in different kinds of business, whether it's consumer products or even sports, nonprofits, as we've said, others, they're all content companies now, and they have to think of themselves as content companies. So that's kind of the first part of it. The second part of it is that consumers expect to have direct communications with the brands that they're frequenting and respecting. And those direct communications shouldn't have to run through an intermediary. Even the social media, which has been such a great opportunity for consumers to get to know brands better, it's really a one-way mechanism. This is wonderful to be up on YouTube for this conversation. We'll have the ability to chat with folks off to the side, but it's not really a always-on two-way communication system that learns from what we like to do, what we like to see, how we want to engage. And that's why direct-to-consumer is such a huge opportunity for all kinds of companies. And the over-the-top world, which essentially says, whatever you want to view, on whatever device you want to use, at whatever time you want to view it, and under any business model that makes sense for you, that's a great consumer proposition. And now companies can satisfy that urge by using these tools.
Yeah. And you talked something that I really like about content creation and communication. I think we are living two kind of content right now, no? The branded content and the sales content. So that it's linked to the to your what you're saying in terms of business model, monetization strategy. And talking about that specifically, now, what do you think would be the best user acquisition strategy, for instance, from a media company perspective? What are the main areas should we ever look at? For instance, from a product perspective, what is transforming user video discovery and consumption right now, or could probably make it better still in the future?
It again depends on the type of content that you have. And then, as you say, the product design to try to make personalized experiences possible, to make discovery of content easy. But from the position of a client, of a content company, it starts by analyzing who your viewers or fans are. What are your communications tools with them? Could be email, could be bundling with season tickets. It could be any one of a number of devices. And setting up a feedback loop where you're building a product that satisfies your fans' needs, and then constantly looking at the data and adjusting. And that's really how we've built our interface, our dashboard for our clients, so that they can see, where are my users coming from? Where am I acquiring them? What's their lifetime value? And how do I optimize that whole acquisition process and then keep them in my environment longer and make them even more satisfied? And so that's a combination of knowledge of the customer and the right digital tools to be able to build up that relationship.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned a very good point here about data, right? So when many companies approach us and ask us, hey, Fabio, Rick, can we launch this product? Can we launch this solution in the market? What do you think? What would be our acquisition strategy? From where we should start from the product, from the marketing? There's always this discussion, and it's absolutely interesting because everyone has his own view and his own strategy. But data is clearly probably the real first point where, in my opinion, companies should really start from. Understanding your buyer persona, right? So who
Yes.
you are focusing on, and trying to create a community around your brand, as you mentioned before, creating something that could be unique for the end user, and trying to engage as much as possible. Now, I want to go back to sport. You know that I'm a sport fan and I have a lot of background in sport. So unfortunately, this sport is really suffering by this economic downturn due to this COVID-19. So how sport companies can mitigate this situation? We have been talking in the last weeks, I think, for a while about this specific topic. And I'm asking you this question because you mentioned in the first answer something that I want to ping you now. You actually are particularly sensitive on this topic. You are also a sport fan. You're based in Washington. You follow both NBA and NHL. So in terms of sports right now, what kind of initiative you have led and you are incentivized in this moment, specifically clearly with our network of clients, but could be possibly also outside of it?
Well, if you think about how we're all experiencing this time, the health crisis, the economic uncertainty, you have to rally around your family, you have to rally around your community. For us, it's rallying around our clients. That's important for our business. It's the key. And we recognize particularly the sports clients are having the challenges that you outlined. So we set up a working group with our sports clients. And we said, let's share best practices among this group of sports services. let's take a look at creating new programming for you while you don't have live events. So we've set up a sports film festival because we had access to great sports films, which we can provide to our clients uniquely as a tech platform. We've had our clients talk to one another about exchanging programming so that they can present great games in a different sport and provide it to their fans as new and fresh content. They're talking about production collaborations. Can we make series that have a similar theme but play out across multiple sports, multiple geographies? We've encouraged them to do what we used to do at National Geographic really widely, which is look at your archives, look at your existing programming, and let's think about what you can do to make that fresh and interesting. It's a Cuisinarting approach, and it works as well in the digital world as it does in the kitchen. So that's useful. And then most of all, communicate regularly with your users. Find out what they're interested in seeing now. They understand very well that you can't give them live games when a league is shut down. And as a last point, as I mentioned at the outset, now is really the time to develop the new tools, the new functionality, so that when the sport does come back online again, your fans, your viewers will say, oh, wait a sec, that's really cool. This is a better experience for me, closer to that in-person live opportunity, new data that I can use as a sports fan, a range of new techniques that can make the experience better and richer. And now is the time to really put that in place.
Yeah, I think you just talked about data sport. That looks like, to me, sort of betting industry, right? Yeah. So I have a question actually about this. So the sport betting industry is finally emerging in the US with new regulation. And how do you foresee this transformation? Because those are completely different dynamics that you specifically in the US, probably less in Europe, but specifically in the US, you will have, and you are doing completely different way of creating a sport industry that is looking to a completely new world. Let's say that would be very, very interesting, not just from an economic point of view, but in my opinion also from the innovation, what you talk about. Yeah.
Tremendous innovation already and much more to come. And here in the US, the gating item isn't coronavirus, it isn't economic downturn. It's the fact that each state has to make a decision whether they're going to allow legalized gambling within their own jurisdiction. So that whole process will proceed in accordance with its own calendar. But there are quite a number of states which have already legalized sports gambling. And I think you'll see an expansion in the months to come. So what does that mean? That means for those folks who want to bet on sports, that opportunity is going to be made available. I think the holy grail lies in the fusion of the aspects of sports and sports programming, which are key. And that is, are you going to be able to provide video? Are you going to be able, in the same experience, to provide data which is aimed at the consumer, which I, as a fan, can use to deepen my experience with the game I'm watching? And then can you hook it up to your gambling engine so that with no latency, you've got the ability to bet in the context of a tennis match or a football game in a way where you're even more deeply involved in the sport you love. And there's already an awful lot of innovation that we're working on with our clients in the sports area. And I think you'll see more and more of this as the live games come back on. And here in the States, as the states themselves allow legalized gambling.
Yeah. Now let's go back now to the streaming area, right? I have a question that could be a little bit tricky. What do you think we will see in the second part of this unfortunate 2020, and specifically looking more longer in 2021? What are the things that you foresee from a streaming standpoint, streaming trends that you expect, at least in the next, let's say, 18 months from now?
I think 18 months is a great period to take a look at. We'll obviously have live sports before then. God willing, we'll have an economies revitalized far before then. But I think over that period, you're going to see an awful lot of innovation. And what that means are new stories, new types of storytelling that people are working on already. You're going to see new over-the-top services coming in different content areas, as well as the principal content areas we've discussed today, entertainment and sports. You're going to see new storytellers, production companies, studios, individuals going global with their storytelling. We talked a little bit in the context of sports betting about new functionality, but you're going to see that new functionality existing everywhere. We're in conversations with film festivals and with musicians and bands. How are they going to reach their fans under circumstances where for some time people may feel a little uncomfortable about being crammed in with 20,000 or 100,000 fellow fans in a live experience? How do you replicate that? How do you make it not only nearly as good as live, but allow you to do things that you couldn't do in a live context? And so all of those things you're going to see out of this time period. It's just a historical fact that when systems go through this kind of shock, innovation's unleashed. And so from our perspective at Viewlift, we want to be there to help that process, to help people think about the functionality that they need to be able to reach their audiences, how to do it in a way where the technology is tested and scalable, and how to be able to have that data flow again back to the client so that they can constantly act as an operator and really move their businesses intelligently into the future.
Interesting. You know that I don't like to talk about our own company, but this question, I really want to make it because I think it's a lot of sense. So Viewlift is definitely a company that is growing internationally. It's growing with you mentioned few of our new important clients. In terms of Viewlift, what's the next move, Rick? Where the growth strategy of the company will be focused? Don't unveil completely the strategy to the world, but maybe you can tell us something about the company, and where do you think we should look at Viewlift next?
We want to be a leader. We want to be a great partner for our clients, and we want to help them move into this new and largely unknown future, but where we expect that there'll be great innovation. And so we'll do more in sports and entertainment. We'll do it with existing leagues, existing teams. We'll also move beyond sports and entertainment, working with nonprofits, as we've discussed. We're talking to retailers, as you know, you've been central there, consumer products brands, in education, lifelong learning, all of these services and goods where people realize that storytelling and content are key to them. We're going to see new innovation. We've talked about a number of them today. That'll come from the really big companies like our client NBCU, but it's also going to come from smaller and newer entities from all over the world. And what we want to do is take our toolkits for them and give them the opportunity to really present like a big broadcaster, but on a small, young, growing company's budget. And if we can do that, then we're going to be providing all of this wonderful content to audiences all around the world. And I think you're going to see services appeal globally, but also start to drill down hyper-locally. So you'll have, as we have with our client Monumental Sports Network, they really serve the Maryland, Virginia, Washington, D.C. area. And they provide the one place where you can see all the great local sports going on in that area. Those sorts of approaches, as big as the globe, as small as your neighborhood or community, are going to be empowered by over-the-top and direct-to-consumer approaches. But what do you think, Fabio? You're one of the leaders of our company and a longtime leader in this sector. How do you see it playing out?
I think localization for sure is one area. Absolutely, is probably the biggest area you mentioned. And we also see the big giants like Netflix, Disney, etc. They're investing at the end of the day. They're investing in localized production. Mm-hmm. So I think that part of it is very interesting and very powerful. I also see a lot of innovation that can be, let's say, can go together with the OTT. A lot of innovation around the OTT, but then beneficial the whole industry, from marketing to product to other technologies, etc. That all together can bring and leverage the experience of the end user. So definitely, I see that. I'm asking people for questions. So there is a question coming in and says, thanks for the great talk, guys. What are, in your opinion, the most important area I should look at when choosing a perfect OTT platform provider for my business? So this is Dana. That is writing. Thanks, Dana, for the question.
Oh, that's perfect. The real question is how to get, I think, a mixture of opportunities, right? There are those providers who have a single solution or a couple of different templates that you can use. They may be very inexpensive. You can get into the market right away. But as you grow in scale, you get too big for them pretty quickly. As you have custom needs, you can't exercise those desires because that's just not the way they work. The other end of the spectrum does everything completely customized. And if you're going to go in that direction, you had better be extremely large and have a very robust budget. We've tried, in the kind of Goldilocks analogy, we've tried to be just right at Viewlift for our customers to give you the ability to stand up a service in a matter of days, which used to take up to a year to do, to get into the marketplace quickly and cost effectively. And then as you get to know how your audience is engaging with you in this over-the-top world, then start to customize and really specialize the functionality that's going to make the biggest difference for your customers, your fans, your viewers. And so I think seeing if all of that is with a single provider is really key. Then I think the other thing that makes us unique is that we started this not from the technology side, but as an operator, as a provider of content in the over-the-top world. We were the 11th developer on iPad. We were the first long-form movie provider to Roku. And so we think like operators. How do you run a content business? How do you acquire customers? How do you delight them? And how do you use that data feedback loop in ways that help you grow your business? If you can find those aspects with your technology partner, then you're probably on the right path.
Yeah, and I'm happy because there are a few other questions that are coming in.
Right.
So let's see if we can wrap up. I'd like to know, what do you think? This is Ali. So thanks, Ali. Is the greatest synergy between customer support and marketing? So,
well, you know what? They have to work hand in hand, right? Because marketing is your push to your audience, and customer support is the feedback coming back from the audience. There are so many aspects of this. One is to pull in quality of service into the dashboard that you as the client are getting from your technology provider, so that your customer service representatives can tell at a glance if it's an underlying problem with somebody's connection, or if there are other issues that are impacting service. That's really vitally important. But to try to tie it into one back-end system is very difficult, but exceptionally important if you can pull it off. But you've got such a great marketing background, and you deal all the time with customer service issues. How would you address Ali's question?
Well, this is, to be totally frank with you, is a tough question. So thanks, Ali, for raising. I think to be honest, here marketing technology tools can really help to make a better service to your fans. The good thing is not just because I'm working at Viewlift, but we already pre-integrated a lot of marketing technologies that actually are helping our clients' customer support to do a very, very good service. And this automation of marketing and all these tools are really empowering the customer support representatives to do always their job. And of course, having the possibility to have the single user view also is quite important, because you can definitely enter in almost inside the spectrum of each individual user. So that's where exactly you can do a better job at the end of the day with your customer support. Two other questions here, Rick. I'm sorry to take longer. So leagues could learn from esport to replicate live experience when it isn't available. What can OTT media companies do in anticipation of this?
I missed
what can OTT do in anticipation of this? So, Brandon asking, leagues could learn from esport to replicate the live experience when it isn't available.
Yes.
So basically, he's asking if esports can replicate or can replace sport.
Well, that I mentioned that in the context of simulated games, and so that is a great opportunity for sports now to take the matchups between rival teams and play the games out in an esports environment. But there are other aspects that I think the questioner is getting at, and that is, again, use of data, use of new platforms and new ways of finding your customer. And the whole growth of esports is in and of itself a tremendous area in the over-the-top environment, because you've got the same mechanics, the same aspects of the relationship between athlete and fan, the leagues and team structure, but they're so much newer, and that allows them greater innovation, where they can learn from team sports, traditional sports, but also take us in new directions. And I think you're starting to see that with some of the lifestyle programming that's coming out of esports, some of the integration of sponsors into product. I think you're starting to see it within the in-stadium experience and replicating that out of the stadium. All of those areas, that's such a fertile mix to go back and forth from team sports to esports. So I think it's a great question and will be a very fun area that will be played out in the over-the-top environment.
Yeah, and probably with this COVID-19, the aggregation between esports and sport has never been so closer, right? They all get each other a little bit like sort of rivals, but in this case, probably is the survival, not the rival anymore. Last question is there, in your opinion, a high risk of customer churn after the end of lockdown? How will OTT services face this? So
again,
churn matter.
Yeah, these are all really wonderful questions. And the truest answer is we don't know. But here's what I would suspect. It isn't as though most people are sitting home and have nothing to do. They've got their work, their normal job outside of the home that they have to conduct now in a home environment. They're taking care of their children, their elders, their family. And so they've got an awful lot going on. You don't have many people who are sitting in front of a television set 24/7, sitting in front of a computer or a Roku device, Roku-enabled device. So that demand is going to continue to exist when we come back into what's a little bit more of a normal environment. And it may be that people are trying new services now with a higher frequency. But under all circumstances, a new service has to find ways to reduce churn. So much of that, again, is the whole data mining that we've talked about. How do you, as an operator of a service, understand how your viewers are consuming your service? How long do they watch? Where on each individual piece of content are they checking out? Are they coming back and trying new things? Can you use the direct-to-consumer tools to prompt them about content that they may enjoy? How do you make that feedback loop really work for you? And that's where these digital tools are so tremendously useful. And so whether it's in this extraordinary environment we're in now, or in a more standard one that we hope to resume soon, the need to make your content compelling, make your service easy to use, intuitive, and fluid, those are always challenges that great content companies rise to.
Good. So, guys, we arrived at the real end of this webinar. Rick, I really appreciate your time. I really do. Really thanks for being with us, and hope to see you really face to face soon.
It can't happen soon enough, Fabio.
So, guys, thanks for all the people that was watching this event live, but also to all the people that watch this event on VOD, because this will be recorded and automatically uploaded on YouTube channel. So thanks again. And for any kind of question that you guys have, I want to remind that you can write us sales at the email here, sales@viewlift.com. We'll be more than happy, clearly, to receive any questions or any emails related to OTT, whatever it is. No problems. We will try to answer all of them. So thanks again, Rick, and see you very soon, guys.
Thanks.